According to our clock, it is 6:30 at the village. Item 1 is to open the meeting. Number 2, consider approval of the minutes of the Public Safety Committee meeting held on September 11th, 2018.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Let the record show it. Number 3, discuss the 911 server upgrade. Mike? Oh, there you are. Okay.
Mike?
Is this okay?
Fine, Ravi.
Well, I think they
Why don't you speak into the...
They watch on camera, so probably up there.
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah.
Watch you on camera. You have your makeup done and
Oh,
everything?
yeah, I did my hair. You can tell.
There you go.
The 911 servers are at end of life, and they need to be replaced. In 2012, we did a study, and we decided to use SunGuard as the software, and software was chosen to be the best, and it's been running at 99.999% uptime since then, so over the last 6 years. The servers are, as I said, end of life. The system would benefit as a whole from the upgrade because it would allow us to move up on the operating system software, the server software, and it would also provide that same reliability at 99.999%. The system that we use from SunGuard, which is now called Central Square Technologies, is from a company called Stratus Servers or Stratus Technologies. They make purpose-built servers for CAD, RMS systems that guarantee 99.999% uptime by using some patented software and patented hardware that's built into these servers. We believe that these servers were perfectly the last 5 years and would like to replace them with the same like for like. So it's really just an upgrade to the existing system, like for like, and then bringing in another disaster recovery server to be installed at the police department to support disaster recovery. We'd like to request a budgeted number of not to exceed 120. It was in last year's, it's in the capital budget for 2019 and approved. Questions, comments?
You say that they're at the end of life of the service. Is that, did I hear you say 6 years?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So I did hear right. Okay, any questions from the board? I'd like to make a motion to approve the upgrade server.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it.
Thanks.
Okay, item number 4, discuss wireless radio alarms remote monitoring upgrade. Chief?
Evening. Thank you, Trustee Brady. Just real briefly, believe it or not, it's been a year already since the Public Safety Committee and the Village Board passed an ordinance allowing us to embark in what I'd consider a pioneering program in that we're one of only 3 suburbs that have enacted this type of a remote monitoring program here. It was our goal through the advice and direction of Deputy Chief Reardon and the Bureau to take a look at this program, and what we believe we've been able to do here is add a great deal of ability to have redundancy in the ability to monitor fire alarms and other types of alarm signals that come into our 911 center, while at the same time reducing the total number of trouble alarms that our companies would have to respond to, as well as eventually, once things are fully up and going, reducing the total number of alarm monitoring and service repair calls going into our 911 center. We thought all those things were great, things for us to start to explore, and it's taken a great deal of time to get us to the point where we can give you a real good progress report here today. But my congratulations and thanks to Chief Reardon and the entire Fire Prevention Bureau and all of our staff there to physically go to 560 alarm positions, place our new sticker on there with the new monitoring numbers, and make sure that all the signals and that are being verified has been a tremendous undertaking. And very early into the program, just over the last couple of months, it's already shown a great reduction in the numbers and the types of responses that were going in there, as well as reducing some of the call volume. So I've asked Chief Reardon to come and give you a little bit of the highlights here, a little bit of the timetable, and answer any questions that you might have on this program.
All right, thank you, Deputy Chief.
Thanks, Chief. Good evening. Just to kind of give you a summary of the program. The radio alarm program, where the village monitors all alarms in the village, has been in place since 2008. So last year we we came to the board to ask for a contract extension for the vendor that maintains our equipment, which is Fox Valley. Along with that extension, it was the looking to bring in a redundant type system, which is Emergency 24, which is a UL-listed central station that allows for us to actually add more security and create another means of doing something, monitoring should things not work well in Tinley Park, i.e. system shuts down or we have some type of natural disaster. The goal was to, our program, which has been in, the radio alarm program has been in effect since 2008, has a lot of success, but with that, we created a couple other problems with that, and that was a lot of non-emergent activity with our dispatch center. So we started working with Fox Valley and came up with this solution with the goal to try to knock down non-emergent calls that a dispatch had to answer. Also, to make sure, and with that, create more time for the dispatch to handle more important activity calls, whatever comes up in their daily operations. Chief did mention this. We are the third jurisdiction to do this, and with that, there's still a little bit of uncertainty about following it all the way through. Every jurisdiction is a little bit different, and Tinley Park was no different than the other two that have successfully had implemented this. I'd like to go through some of the highlights that we've had since our January meeting. I do need to kind of reach out and give some of the internal departments some thank yous. Our IT and our dispatch. I think we took them out of their comfort zone a little bit on some of the things that we asked them to do, but I think you're more comfortable now, and it's really something that as we try to grow and try to learn how to do these things, we've actually found some great ideas out there on how we can continue to do it better as the program moves on. But in your handout, you have some timelines on some things that we thought were worth mentioning. In August was probably our busiest month. We had to get out in the field and get all our transmitters relabeled. We had to get letters out to our alarm holders to tell them exactly what was happening, and we also had to make sure that they were giving us current vital information to make the program a success. We had some great responses to where 75% of the letters that we sent out came back and either told us everything that's currently in our database is okay, or they gave us the update. And that is critical when we're going to have that third party working with us to try to resolve some alarms. The dispatch had implemented some new protocols. And actually we did this as a little bit of an experiment because these were going to be the same protocols that we were going to give to Emergency 24 to do some monitoring. Our hope was that we could kind of get a understanding on how the system was going to work before we even transitioned it over. And we actually, we weren't surprised by it, but we were happy to see that as compared to some activity we had last year, we had almost a 10% reduction in non-emergent activity for 2018 using some of these new protocols. So we were feeling really, really comfortable knowing that these protocols are going to really save us time and are going to work for Emergency 24 before we even start the pilot program of running signals through them. So we're very excited about that. And we can't do it without the IT department, and once they understood what was going on, they started working with Fox Valley to help us understand, and Mike, correct me if I get it wrong, information's got to go out and it's got to come back in, and we got to make sure it does it safely. Security. So something new, but it's something that I think we're in that comfort zone, and pretty excited now that we're at the point to make that work. While we were doing that, Emergency 24 in Fox Valley they had to build a database. So they had a database that we basically had here, had to be built up there, so they kind of mirrored each other. And although it may sound like it's just data entry, there was a lot of things that were a little bit more complicated that that took a little bit of time and took some input from us to help get it right. So we've had train-the-trainers. We've had our vendor and Emergency 24 working with our dispatch personnel, our fire personnel to kind of say, this is how it's going to work. This is how it's going to be formatted. And now that we've got the basics to help us understand what the end product's going to look like. So where we're going to be going by the end of the first quarter this year, we should be up and running. We will have it piloted. We are at the point to where we've got some infrastructure things that are planned that once we get them implemented, we can start the piloting. And it will require some reconfiguration of some of the equipment we have right now. But we're about, now that the holidays are over, they're going to be fully staffed to be able to help us out. So we're pretty excited. We're a little bit behind, but being the fact that we are the third in jurisdiction to do it, and it's still a very unique type of way of monitoring, we're pretty excited that this thing will be coming to a conclusion shortly. So I'm here to take any questions if you have any.
No, I'd only have compliments. Appreciate the work and effort that you put in your statement, and Mike, all that you've done to get this going, and certainly we appreciate all that, and keep our fire department number one.
Chief, who's the other municipalities that are doing it?
Winnetka and Des Plaines.
Oh, so we're the first outsider.
Yes.
That's good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any comments from the public? Let the record show there are none. I call for a motion to adjourn the public safety meeting for today, January 8th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Have no. The ayes have it, so ordered.
I'd like to open the Community Development Committee at 6:43. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the Community Development Committee meeting held on December 11, 2018.
So ordered.
Number 3, discuss short-term rental ordinance. Kimberly?
Good evening.
take that.
We're here again because our first committee meeting in December was our initial dipping our toe into what short-term rental is and discussing the ability to how it may impact our neighborhoods and what we would do to regulate them if we chose that path. And the direction at the committee was to go forward with a licensing requirement, which then the next component of that would also have to be a text amendment to the zoning code that would talk more in depth about what neighborhoods, specifically districts, these would be permitted in. So we have a draft ordinance in front of you. I will go over some of the highlights of that draft licensing ordinance, which may evolve a little bit more as we get through zoning. I have been speaking directly with the fire department as well to talk a little bit about how these types of uses are viewed in their eyes compared to a typical bed and breakfast and how these codes would be applicable to them. So those are still some things we'd like to iron out. But in general, we have a decent ordinance in front of you. Basically, we would have a definition of the short-term rentals, which would distinguish it from the term bed and breakfast that we currently regulate in the zoning code. That there would be a requirement that the rental be limited to an owner-occupied unit. Now, that is something that we didn't specifically talk about at the last committee, but it's something I'm presenting. There's some reasoning behind that, because that when you have an owner-occupied unit, there's some still ownership in the home. There's still someone living there, but they have the opportunity, if they want to have some offset in income, they can do so. So we're not limiting them that ability. What this would stop would be any potential businesses that are making this a business model, because there are companies out there, and they've contacted me, they want to buy up properties and basically run them as Airbnbs with no one ever permanently living there. And so I think as a starting point, maybe this is how we approach this with being owner-occupied. We'd have to verify that ownership through voting records, license, or a bill showing that that person does live there. Now, they could go away for a month or two if they tend to vacation somewhere and in the meantime want to rent their home out. We wouldn't stop that, but there still would be a permanent resident in that neighborhood. And the one home that we have seen the problem has been a home that's not owner occupied and is being regularly rented out as a whole house for rental. So that is one distinction in the license. I've also seen this required in some other communities. That's where I got the language. Park Ridge in particular was entertaining this, although they didn't pass their ordinance. This was one of their concerns, and that came from the community still wanting there to be an owner occupied in the unit. At this time, it does not impose a hotel tax on short-term rentals. There is some potential benefits of imposing a tax in that it would keep short-term rentals on the same playing field as existing hotels, but the negative is the imposing that tax as an administrative cost for such the small amount of number that we have. We didn't know if that was quite necessary to pursue the tax at this time. There is a requirement that this would be an accessory to the residential use. Again, that just implies that this would be a primary person living in the home, and this is just an accessory use to their main residency. We limited the sleeping rooms to not serve more than 2 adults per night. Again, this is something I'm working with the fire department to talk about. If there's a maximum number of people permitted in a household, we'd like to discuss that further, if there should be a threshold for that as well. We have listed standards and procedures for license approval that must be met. Initially, the application will come into the Community Development Department where we would check zoning. We would also then make sure they comply with the standards and procedures listed, where they would be signing an affidavit that they will abide by the rules, that they are the primary resident occupying it. The village manager will also have an opportunity to review any applications and may deny or disapprove. Initially, the ordinance, when it first was given to you as an example, it had it running through the village board each time. We didn't think that was necessary for these things to go in front of the village board because it's got more important things to do, so we'd like to handle it in-house for now. And there is a vocation from the village manager that they can revoke any license. So there's some standards in there as well. And the annual licensing fee, currently, if you do long-term rentals in our community, if you have a 1 unit to 2 unit, it's a $50 licensing fee. If you have 3 to 10 units, it's $100. We felt that maybe just be consistent to keep the same fee schedule that we do for long-term rentals that is currently outlined in our code. There was discussion if we felt we wanted to make this higher. I mean, that's something we can still discuss, but we thought for now $50 if you want to rent a room or 2. If you have anything more than that, which would be a whole house, you'd be $100. We do require an on-site inspection by staff, and that is something we will work out between the building department and fire department as a quick checklist. Basically, we are looking for life safety, smoke detectors in the rooms, that the doors properly work, windows properly work. So we'd like to work on having a checklist and an inspection done as part of the license being issued. These licenses would not be issued to anyone that has any outstanding debt or violations, and that, again, I had mentioned there is language that would revoke a license if they were in violation. So that's step 1. That would be the licensing. The second component that would be next would be the zoning code. And right now, there's communities that regulate them to certain districts. If you saw in my previous report, the current Airbnbs range from all different zoning districts. So one way to look at it, though, would be that we'd want to make sure any property that would be utilizing short-term rental, that property itself is a conforming use. The building is up to code, so we wouldn't allow anyone who currently isn't meeting the zoning requirements to do this. One other successful regulation that other communities use well, and this is to keep the neighborhood intact, is to require a distance requirement from other short-term rentals. So this way you wouldn't see maybe an entire block or neighborhood maybe see a large influx of short-term rentals. One of the suggestions that I've seen as a common distance requirement is 1,000 foot. So that would help any concerns if someone felt they had too many short-term rentals on their block. This would keep the intent and integrity of a neighborhood. One other thing to ensure is that they can meet the off-street parking facilities. One complaint that I had seen come in, I think there was about 10 cars jammed in on a single-family driveway. Clearly not meeting our parking, so that would be another way to ensure however many units they say they can rent out, they can provide off-street parking and meet that. And then also we would prohibit any signage. We wouldn't want that to be kind of coloring the neighborhood with any signage promoting that it's a short-term rental. So that's kind of the direction we like to go. I have, also, if there's any other things you'd like me to review, Plan Commission will go in depth about strictly where these will be permitted and some of these other terms that I talked about, the distance requirement, the building having to conform. And I just want to reiterate, it's important that, I know it doesn't seem like we have a lot now, this is a big industry, it's a $32 billion market, and as of 2017, a third of Americans have stayed in short-term rentals, and that was from 1 in 10 in 2015. So, and we're not just seeing it in touristy areas, we're seeing it everywhere in small towns. There are 5 million properties listed currently in the United States.
Wow.
And what I've researched and have seen is that outright banning it does not really do much. People are still going to do it. Communities like cities like New York, San Francisco have tried to ban it, but yet they have 4,500 Airbnbs being advertised. So, and if you ban it, you can't license it, you can't permit it, you can't regulate it. So this gives us an opportunity to at least have some control and some say, and if we do have a concern from a community or a neighborhood, we have some parameters where we can assist with that. So it's not going away. The sharing economy is here, but I think we're making the right steps in at least having something on the books, and these can always be changed as we move along. But interestingly to know, 50 to 70% of listings now are whole unit rentals. So when short-term rentals started, it was this very cottagey industry. It was, I have a room, I'm going to rent it, it's an outsider coming in, I'm going to give them coffee when they come in, it's going to be a real nice experience. To now it's literally becoming whole houses being rented, and you're losing that original feel of what it was like when you would come in, stay at someone's home, they'd be your guest and your host. It's becoming, it's an industry now. So just to kind of add some more data to what I've been reading on this to help you understand that I think it's important we do, take a step at this and evaluate it and just keep monitoring it. It's not a bad thing though, I think.
Right.
It's the way things are going, and we're giving our residents still an opportunity to, if they need additional income, they can. But we need to keep the integrity of the neighborhoods.
Since the cease and desist letter was sent to them, has everything been?
No, they are still advertising on a couple of other sites. A resident made me aware of that today. I did reach out to the folks that have been interested in this and let them know where things were at. They couldn't all be here. One of them did comment on that, so I'm going to talk to our attorneys. I did get proof that they signed for the letter. The owner that we sent it to, we sent it on December 11th. I think they received it on the 22nd. So we have proof they received our letter. So I will follow up on what our next steps would be to make sure that they follow that. One other thing that was raised to me that one of the residents would prefer to still keep in the licensing requirement would be that anyone who pursues a license notifies the adjacent property owners within so many feet, just to make them aware. The response to that was this individual felt if they knew this property was a short-term rental, they might have been more proactive about contacting the police. Nobody wants to call on their neighbor, right? But I think his thought was, if I knew it was a licensed property, I would have felt more comfortable letting the village know, hey, they're not following the rules. So that was one comment, and we can still do that if that's something we want to explore, where we put the onus on these short-term rentals to give a notice requirement to their neighbors.
Bill, Brian, you have any questions?
I got a couple comments. One, I agree with you. No, a couple of comments, not horses. A couple of comments. One, starting with your ending, I agree we need to get something on the books and have something. Two, are the other 6 Airbnbs who have been good neighbors, have they been contacted and made aware of any of this that's going on?
Actually, I think that was going to be, I'd like to be that our next step, potentially reaching out and letting them know we're going to be regulating it, just to get them now involved, since it looks like we are
Right.
going to be going forward with
And
this.
of course, like anything else, it's too bad because they've been good.
Sure.
And one guy's going to spoil the whole thing for all of them that have been following the rules and doing it properly.
Yeah.
This is almost like, I know I've been here enough times to see you working on it, and we've discussed it quickly on your work. This information that you all found, is any of this part of almost like Michigan, Indiana, Wisconsin, where people are renting their cottages, for a week or a month in the summertime or whatever? Any of this language from that?
No, actually, a lot of this language was a little more smaller suburban communities.
Oh, okay, so it fits in us,
Yeah,
as opposed to a vacation cottage industry.
yeah, I think.
And I didn't have a chance to read all of it, but is there anything in there about keeping the property, grass cut, who does that and who maintains?
Well, if we go with
Be
it
the
being
owner?
a primary residently occupying it,
Right.
they would still be subject to that property
Yeah,
maintenance.
but like this one here, he's not a primary, and he's,
So if we went forward with this, then that person would not be able to have a license and would not be able to participate any longer. They would have to just make it a long-term rental home or sell it or
Right.
whatever, so.
right. Okay.
Say anything about horses.
Would that, Chief, would it have to require anything special from the fire department? The fire extinguishers here and there or stuff like that?
I know that Chief Bird has been very active in the discussions here, and I think Kimberly highlighted those things that, as part of the inspection licensing process. Smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, extinguisher replacement, making sure the doors and exits all work correctly.
So that would be required of them.
Well, we're still working on some of that, trying to wrap our hands around it ourselves. It's unique.
Right.
New for our business to address these things. So.
Sure. Okay, well, no matter what kind of house it is, they should have all that stuff.
Absolutely right. Just good practice.
Right,
And no horses.
right. That's fine by me?
No horses.
No.
Brian, you good?
So what, you are just going to continue to work on this, or we're not bringing anything before the board, or?
Right, because the next step would be the planning and
commission.
zoning process,
Okay.
and then we would bring forward to the village board both licensing and the zoning component, so it could be adopted at one time. And that gives you guys the ability to kind of see the whole picture. So the request would then be to recommend that the next step would be the plan commission reviewing a text amendment.
Do we need language in here? No large animals?
I'm sure we could put anything in the licensing if we want to.
What, like horses?
Yeah.
Horses, elephants, camels?
Oh, one thing I had mentioned to our attorney actually is that it's not in here, but I just noticed it on one of the, I was doing a webinar on this. They actually were requiring that the host post the noise ordinance that, and I'm sure we have one in town, I didn't know what it was, but after a certain time, no activity outside. Where you see the problems of people who have pools, you get
Sure.
people have parties and they're out till midnight, 1 in the morning, and that's where the noise complaints come. So
Right.
that could be a component of the license too, that they have a noise ordinance.
Noise ordinance, yeah. Except at my house.
So this would go to planning commission and come back to the cow.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Anything you want to add, Dave? You good?
I'm good.
You're in control of the, you're in control. Number 4, receive comments from the public. Let the record reflect there are none. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.